Adam can join in when he gets here. So, let's start with an update on the applications from Tyler.
All right, so as you all know, there were 2 applicants that have just kind of been hanging around in the background for a little while now. At last night's council meeting, I got clarification on which counselors want to volunteer their time to sit in on the interview process. My understanding from a conversation with council and some other documents that we've scrounged up was that we were trying to mimic what the Planning Commission has done for an application process, which was 3 council members and then the chair of the Planning Commission. So if we're using that same methodology here, it would be Becky and 3 counselors, including Carl and 2 others. So Councilor Smallwood and Councilor Peetzold both volunteered to sit in on that panel. Now that I have a group of people that I can reach out to schedule interviews, we can start moving forward. So I'll have an email out before the end of the week to the 4 counselors and commissioner who will be involved and get some dates that are set up so that we can get those interviews conducted.
You know, before we bother the counselors, I did email the gentleman who applied and didn't hear anything back.
Okay.
Anything.
I can give them both a call and confirm their interest still.
So I did check in with Linda. She's still interested, but she won't be back until about the 28th or 9th.
Okay.
And if you can contact that gentleman, we would know whether it was a 1-person application process.
Yep. I will do that. I don't foresee, just given everyone's schedule, how we could get interviews actually scheduled next week. So
No,
I think
but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You can't get a hold of it.
I think we'll probably be closer to the, first week of March is more realistic. If that were to happen, council could appoint the new member on March 16th at that council meeting, so you'd have a full commission on the 18th.
Yep, I do too.
Okay.
The Public Art Forum update, Sandra?
Well, I haven't gotten any RSVPs, have you?
No, we didn't ask for any.
Well, I know, I just thought maybe we'd hear around from people.
I have talked to people who would like to come.
Yeah,
Carl's
I've told
coming.
some too, yeah.
And I think we needed, during the regular part of the meeting, to talk about the budget here, but we didn't pass a budget for the public art thing, did we?
No.
Or did we?
We did for the forum.
We did for the
minute-
forum.
For the forum, yeah, $300
$300.
allocated for that.
So there's really nothing that we
Didn't
need
pass it.
to do for the regular meeting. You 2 are getting
Well,
together on.
Yeah, I've got the whole list, and I went through and did the Amazon today on what, we originally said 2 of the sticky pad deals, it's 24 by 30, 25 by 30, but there's 60 in each pad.
Oh, well, we just probably need one then.
Well,
Didn't
it's comes in a 2-pack.
Oh, it
What
comes
she's
in a
looking at,
2-pack,
unless
okay.
maybe there's
Yeah,
a.
no, it is, it's a 2-pack. Most all of them are 2-pack.
Okay.
I'll look and see if I can find it.
Okay, so the
on a
budget thing
symbol.
is handled.
Yeah, so this
And-
stuff's 98, and then the coffee cookies, that kind of stuff. I'll just spend a day going to, between Costco and cash and carry, yeah.
Okay.
If you, I can help too,
You wanna do that with me?
or instead of, or whatever, however you can answer that, so.
I have a question for Tyler, and now I can't remember what it was. What's the process? I know that it says in our bylaws that there's a 75% attendance requirement for meetings and special events. And I feel that the Public Art Forum is a very important thing, and I would like to see all the commissioners come to one or the other of the nights. Does that make it an event that's a part of our how do we structure that so that we get,
That's, so my understanding of the forum is that it is a sort of outreach piece and not necessarily an official meeting, is that
Yes.
correct?
it's not an official meeting?
So I think you'd have a hard time mandating attendance for a not official meeting. Strongly encourage.
Okay, so we'll just
We
beg
just wanna
everyone to
encourage
come.
people,
Yes.
either on
Like
Friday
Adam-
night or
Adam works
Saturday
both
morning.
of those, so he's already said he can't.
Okay. I think that probably the rest of us will be there, one or the other, and the three of us will be there for both, and
I'll
I'm
be
not,
there for both.
for both.
Yeah, I'll be there for both.
Okay.
Excellent.
I think Adam
Anything
said he had
else?
to work or something.
He
didn't
works both of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? We're good on that?
I think so.
Okay. The mural restoration, for the Thomas mural is done. I had Pam come and review it,
Ooh,
and
good.
Cherry Glenn came and reviewed it. Mr. Cam is going to be doing the spray as soon as he gets his compressor up and running, and, so it should be ready to put back on the front of the city hall in, I'm going to say, probably by the end of March or so. Carl had mentioned maybe doing some kind of special event in maybe
In
April.
March? In March?
I'm thinking it's gonna go up in March, so would you be interested in maybe doing something in April?
Can we combine that with the other murals since they're so close together?
I had suggested to the mayor and to Jordan Wheeler, that we do something special to just enunciate, to celebrate the idea that it was going up, and it was up, I guess that would be the piece. And so whatever night that it went up, and then maybe the following city council, we would have a big celebration. And that would be a great time for the art council commissioners to show up. But need to know exactly what night that can happen. First off, when it would go up, and then as soon as we have that knowledge, then try to schedule the week following or 2 week following, depending on what night that followed up. But that's, both the mayor and Jordan Wheeler said that would be something they'd like
What
to do.
they'd like to do, so we'll.
Celebrate that.
When I have it arranged with, Joe and Parks and so on, when it's a date certain, I'll try to let you know ahead.
Sure.
So that we can kind of get it planned.
And those kind of things, as much head start is warranted, it would be really appreciated. I would expect it to be just 15 to 30 minutes worth of the first, probably like a 6 o'clock time frame or so. But let us know and we'll do the best we can for celebrating. I don't know if we can have wine there or not, but certainly crackers and cheese and pop and
Where do you
whatever
hold
else.
it?
And we'll invite,
Outside?
come on in, and
Well-
we'll invite Brittany.
I was gonna say that.
Depends on the weather. I'm sure we'll all go out, whether it's raining cats and dogs or not, but
Yeah.
if it's really that much, then we'll do it in here probably, which is where council will be, but we'll start here anyway, so, yeah, let me know, and we'll set that up the following council meeting.
Okay.
Excited about
So,
it.
so we get to have a little party there, that'll be, let's say that might be April. And then, the Cooke mural, AEC is opening their center hall to, visitors. And we can, on May 2nd, and at 3:00 PM. And we'll put it in the paper for the public, and I think I may have a certain time that we invite the family and VIP, friends and family and VIPs to the hall, and then a separate time set for the actual rededication out on the street. But I'm gonna talk to Mr. Picking about setting up like a carport size tent in case it's raining, and actually have the rededication across the street looking at the mural. Cause I don't think there's room right at the
Yeah.
on the sidewalk to do that. It's not the best view either.
No.
And so, what we would do is we would have like a small reception for, like I said, VIPs, city and family and friends of Roger, and then invite and set the time for the public and the rededication a little bit into that, so that, they would be able to congregate out on the street in the parking lot. And then the plaque will be up, so it'll be covered and somebody will, that'll be like a ribbon cutting.
If we're doing a Thomas mural with the city council, why not do it with the council too on the Cooke one?
Do it at the same time.
Well, that's an option, or separate, or whatever, but I think we need to make sure the council has full knowledge about how much work has gone into this. I know they've already, they hear from me all the time anyway. I have the reputation of being the art version of Jeremy Pietzel, who's the Sandy Net advocate, so they hear about you guys all the time. But it's, surely the council should be there too.
Well,
Maybe if it's not the same night that the council is, that we would drag them over there.
What I was thinking is, we're gonna have some hors d'oeuvres and drinks and so on at AEC for the reception-y part of it. And, he has a lot of friends in the area and,
He does.
church members and so on. Too many for the AEC atrium, probably, or could be. You know, you don't know how many people are gonna show up when it's in the newspaper. So that's why I was thinking more of, a starter reception and then the public part of it,
Yeah,
and,
I can see that.
maybe with a megaphone.
Unless it's raining and awful.
Yeah, well, fewer people will show up, but,
This is true.
Same Steve has a megaphone.
so that's kind of the setup, and we will talk about a, budget for the reception for that next meeting. And then,
And we'll have a good idea.
the city council would be
Yeah.
invited to the reception, the indoor reception part, and staff who would like to come, and then the public would be invited to the rededication outdoors. And that's really all I have on those,
So it was not the same, March for the,
well, probably it'll be April by the time the city council does anything, 'cause it'll take, it'll go up in March. And so I'm gonna say it's probably April before the city council could do anything.
And you saw that the other additional ledger board was put up out front, so that the hanging issues with the mural should be resolved once you're ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
The plaque for the, Thomas?
no, and I'm not sure that we should actually get a plaque until we know what they're gonna do with the front of the building. 'Cause you don't know where you're gonna put it, and you don't know where if they end up bumping something out or putting, something over it, where are you gonna put a plaque?
Well, you should certainly plan for one anyway. I mean, eventually you'll have it, whether you have to wait until the front of the building is fixed or not, but
Well,
certainly we can go
you're
on.
right, but I'm kinda thinking if they change the structure in the front in any way, there might be a place to put it. Right now, it's windows here and no wall, there's all just mural there. So, you don't wanna put something in the middle of the sidewalk until you know that that's where it's gonna go. So I think if we just wait to see what the city plan is, then we know what size and whether it's gonna be on a post or on a building. But we do have information to put on the plaque when it's time. Okay. I'm going to take the time now to just get up and talk about it,
Okay.
since we're
Ahead
not
of
anywhere
schedule.
close to the 6:30 official meeting time.
Yeah, I
then
made an executive decision sitting over here that I'm not gonna put a time on that in the future, so it'll just roll in.
Good. Well, you can put a little sooner time on it, and we can always start a little late.
Yeah.
Nobody says you have to start on time.
Well, I've seen other councils and stuff, you know, they'll say work session at 6 followed immediately by.
Yeah.
Yeah, followed
Yeah.
immediately by.
If it's a public meeting, you gotta specify a date or time limit.
Well, we could put a sooner time on it, and people can sit here and listen to us yak as a warm-up.
You can always be a little bit early, a little bit late, it can't be significant.
No, well, we're always kind of in the ballpark of it. Okay, so everybody has a printout so that you can look at it. I'm presenting this as a private individual, and, I'm calling it Grow Together or Growing Together, a, silhouette mural. And what we have in this, picture is just the bare basics of what the design is. There are a lot of things that could be added to it, and it could be changed. But I'm gonna start, with the idea that, for me, this is to represent growing together as a family, growing together as individuals, growing together as a community. And I would really like to see community buy-in on the project in a couple of ways. Well, first of all, I'd like to, you know, funding is always an issue no matter what you ever do. So I would like to get the public to fund part of it through donations and using the buy a brick concept instead of buying a brick. If you look where the gardener is hoeing, behind the gardener, there's a space to have a whole wall of flowers, like rows of flowers, just individual metal colored, hand-painted flowers. Those flowers could be for a donation, a set amount, and they would be hand-painted in a range of colors that the person would pick out one. And it could have, on one of the petals, it could have someone's name, that kind of thing, so it was personalized. The shopping bag that the man that's looking up at Grow Together is blank at this point. It could be any color. It could carry a message like Shop Sandy, or it could be taken up by a local business for a significant donation to the project, and it might have their logo on it or some words. And then each of the 3 sunflowers, you know, when you plant something in the garden, you put a little garden stake. There could be a little garden stake, Windermere. It could be that they sponsor a flower, a sunflower, or a family could sponsor a part of the mural. So that's one way people could participate. There's a dog looking up, and he has a collar, he or she has a collar. It could have, you know, somebody has a favorite dog, or their husband's name could go on the collar. There's a painter in the picture with a colored hat and a colored bucket. There could be logo items there. And then to further the concept of growing together, you can also grow in knowledge. You can grow as a person, as an individual. And so I have the mountain of knowledge. So the 2 young hikers are kind of going up the working their way through life. And I would like to solicit ideas from the public on what should be written on the wall. People could send in suggestions of quotes. They could might suggest just words. There could be an old saying like, I always loved things like when I was a kid, penny saved is a penny earned. I'd be scratching my head. What does that mean? And so sometimes there's a saying that might mean a lot to someone. And so we'll solicit ideas, and we could accredit with their name underneath whatever's written. So some things could be larger and some things could be smaller. I put live, work, play, grow on the door, but that's really adjustable to anything. But that's, to me, what these two young people are doing, is kind of making their way into life. You can see the cars parked in front of these items. I wanted to leave the cars in because you get the idea of what will happen when that's a street full of vehicles. This time of year they park there for the ski bus. And so whatever color is painted behind the mural on the left, where it's really dark gray, that's the actual dark gray that's there now. The building owner is looking at a brown color. Well, even if it's that brown color, you would just take whatever that color that's chosen and bring it over where all that medium gray is, whether it's brown or a dark gray, and that becomes the ground, so you can put your items up higher so you can see them behind the car.
That's painted on?
It's paint.
The darker
The
gray is
darker
paint?
color would be all painted on. Mr. Picking is having the building painted this summer, and the colors that he chose, he needs to adapt to the sandy colors from the brochure. And so I did this drawing on a neutral gray just because he will be picking out some fairly neutral colors, and the color that's on there is kind of distracting, and so this makes a nicer, cleaner presentation. Now, there are a lot of things left to consider as far as a project goes. For instance, I did get an estimate from the metal fab, one of the metal fab places here in town, and it's just over $10,000. I can't remember the exact figure. It's over $10,000 for the metal and the powder coating, the color on the metal. And that's just one rough estimate from one company, but I felt like we needed a starting point. The installation, I spoke to a company who works on this building, does maintenance on the building, and got an idea of what they thought it would cost. And I already had an idea of what I thought it would take in time, which kind of matched what they were thinking. And I also know that some of these pieces are going to be heavy. The tree itself is 3 panels of 1/8" steel. I tried to put holes in the where the branches go to lighten it up, because if one sheet is like 255 pounds. So the lighter it is, the fewer people you need for the installation. And the installation is a one-time thing at first, but then you think down the road, the guy's got to paint the building again in a certain amount of time. So those figures need to come down and go back up. So that's a part of what we need to calculate in our cost estimate, is not just the installation, but what the maintenance on that is gonna run over the long haul. So it was, he said, the estimate for labor to put it all up the first time, because you have to place all the holes, is somewhere between 4,500 and 5,500. But if that particular company got the job, there are 2 volunteers who are willing to work the 2 or 2.5 days it takes to put it up as a donation to the city. So it would really only cost one person 2.5 days plus the lift that they would need. So that would be another way that the community can give back, is in donating their labor for installation. And it's possible that we might find a company to do the metal who may like to do an in-kind donation as well. So the cost, I think, should be analyzed on the full scope of the cost, and then see how much we can get donated to pare that cost down.
Do you wanna, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Do you wanna have a corner at the forum with this up and, information sheets that people can take, and couldn't hurt.
I'm hoping to get a printout of it by next week, but if we don't, I might take it down to UPS and get it printed, a 3-foot banner printed, so that we could do that.
Yeah, just have that in a.
Because I think
quick
that
section.
it's
Take
something,
advantage of having people.
I think it's something that shows that we're working on something and get opinions.
Right.
I think it's important to have opinions.
Yeah, give us your opinion
Mhm.
and how will you donate.
Now, other things to consider is if I were the building owner, I would be hiring the painting company to paint my building, right? And a lot of times on these buildings, on 7-Elevens and Plaid Pantries, when we painted them, it wasn't the best paint that with the most durability ever. It was less expensive. On a lot of commercial buildings, they get tagged with graffiti and different things, and you're wasting your money to put the most expensive paint on them. But as a part of the negotiation with the building owner, one thing we might negotiate for is we need a maintenance agreement on the mural itself and what we're gonna do and what he's gonna do. And we may be suggesting that he might wanna put more money into the paint if he's not planning to put the very best paint, because the Clark Kingston paint, or Kingston Clark paint, is 100% acrylic binder, and it has a lifetime guarantee on it for cracking and peeling. And so you might get tired of the color, and the building might crack, but it would be on the building for many more years. You can get really cheap paint that lasts 5 to 7 years. You can get a little bit better paint that lasts 7 to 10 years. You know, paying the extra for the very best paint you can put on the back of this building because of the cost of removing the project would be a good investment. So that's a part of the negotiation that we need to consider. We have the approval of this project to go forward with the building owner, and remember the Vera statute thing that we talked about before, and I sent out, like, right in the beginning? I would like to see the city, through the commission, adopt some guidelines for doing murals and art on buildings to protect the building owner, the city, and the artist, because I don't think necessarily that artists should sign all their rights away to everything, but I don't think it's fair to building owners that once you put your art up there, they can't touch the back of that building or the side of the building or whatever. If I were a private artist and I put that on that building, and he decided that he needed a stairway to go up to get to an upper story or something, he would not be able to obscure any part of that art project. He would not be able to paint over a single word or anything. And I think that's part of the Vera statute, but to me, it's unfair to the building owner, and if I were a building owner, I would not allow art on my building without a good contract. So I think that moving forward, whether we do this project or not, that's something that we really should have a plan in the city, so that, like private business owners, maybe they have a brewery and they decide they wanna put up a mural on the side of their building that's really an art piece, and it has barrels and beers and whatever on it, and everybody might vote that that's a great idea, and then the artist puts something in there that is not approved. Once that, if you don't have a contractual agreement, whatever he puts up there, he owns the side of that building until he dies. Not a good,
Right.
idea. So I think that's kind of almost like a code issue.
Yeah, I would say the commission needs to write up what they would like to have, and then probably submit it to the planning commission. Should that go to the planning commission, to the council?
So any sort of mural, per the code is currently written that a mural is a sign, so it would need to go through a sign variance process, which I think is
If you're gonna
through
modify
council.
the code, it would have to-
If you're modifying the code, it would need to go to planning commission first before it goes to council. But if, under the way the code is currently written, it would just be a sign variance that would go to the council for approval.
And that, if the businesses or whatever, if the businesses have to have, if it's a mural and they have to go through a permitting process, and somebody makes, a bad decision, about what they put on there for the next business to go in that space, but you can't get rid of it, that's really not a good situation for economic development either, because you've got something that you can't get rid of.
There's a beer sign, and then they sell it to a wine or liquor company
Well,
with no beer.
an actual case in
daycare
Portland,
center.
Yeah, that's
Or
what
a
I was
daycare
thinking.
center.
an actual case in Portland, a restaurant had an artist put a boulevard of palm trees going off into the distance, and it looked great, but then it got worn and ratty looking, and patron came in, or somehow it happened that this guy gave a local artist permission to put a new mural up there. Ended up being a Black Lives Matter mural, which irritated the patrons, some of the patrons, and he started getting boycotted. But the poor guy couldn't do anything about it without paying off the artist, I suppose, you know, whatever the artist wanted, to get rid of it. Because you can be sued in court if you paint over it. So until that artist dies, he owns that end of that building.
So even if it's completely trashed and, you know, looks horrible.
Vandalized, whatever,
Or just worn out, you
Yeah.
can't do anything.
you,
That's Portland, though. I don't know that we have
this is a
that.
federal statute.
Okay, maybe we should have our lawyer look into it too.
That's my opinion.
I think so.
But that's your opinion, but. our
I mean,
lawyer-
that's my thinking, is that it's an area
Yeah,
that
it's very
the
big.
city needs to protect itself, the
Right.
business owners, or the property owners need to be protected, and a lot of people don't realize that that is even a thing.
No.
It's a part of the copyright laws, or an extension of, and people, just think it's paint. You can
Yeah.
just paint over it. No, you can't.
Well, Well, if you ever decide to go forward with this, probably have to have that determination made by the city's lawyer, at least.
The city made a contract with Lee Lawrenson for the mural on the rest of the building, and an easement with Mr. Picking to have it there.
So it's
And
still cities.
so the city owns the mural, and, so,
The city would wanna own this.
so the city would own it.
Is it the cities or is it the Pickens?
I'm suggesting that I'm gonna donate the design and overseeing the project as a in-kind donation to the city, not a money donation. A donation, okay? I'm donating it, I'm donating the project, if the city wants to take it up.
So you're gonna use private money though, looks like. So it's not city's money put into it.
So I'm going to suggest that we set a period of fundraising, a period for fundraising. And that,
So if the city doesn't pay for it, it's not the city's, right?
if you.
Well, so we
make
have a couple different
contract-
pieces of moving parts to this project, so I'm gonna jump in and talk about what we had discussed earlier. Becky is speaking as just a community member right now, proposing this to the Arts
Right.
Commission. So there is a level of, commitment that the Arts Commission needs to either commit to or not, as
Right.
far as picking up this project and making it something that you guys are all working on together and sort of making it a city project, for lack of a better term. I think the best way to do that is have a motion to determine whether or not you wanna continue working on this, or if it's just a proposal that a community member made that you're not, going to follow up on. If the commission wants to look at this further and decides to look at it, review it, look up whether it's a public art, private art, donations, however that, process transpires, the commission could then ultimately bring that to council to make the determination of whether or not it abides by the sign code or gets the sign variance so that it can be applied to the wall. And ultimately then council, decides how that's funded, if it is a city project, or contributes a couple $1,000s or matches donations or whatever that looks like to then move the project forward. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is the commission needs to decide, is this something you're interested in pursuing? And if so,
I think we
let's
already
start
know we
there.
are.
I think, yeah, let's make a motion, I'd like to make a motion that we accept.
Can I just?
So let's, because we're in a
I have a
workshop
question.
still, let's
Yeah.
wait until we're in the regular
Okay,
meeting.
for
regular meeting.
But as a
We should discuss
discussion.
it too.
Yeah.
before you-
Yeah, I have a question. Should donations turn into more than you anticipated? Say for example, you want $10,000 for your budget, but you get like, let's say you get 13, 14, or 15,000. Is it possible that you can add like maybe 1 or 2 more flowers, or maybe a couple more kids playing under the tree or something? Or is this the way it has to be under a contract? or
My
whatever?
design in the contract, what I would like to do is, I would like this to be the base design, but for instance, I'm a cat person. So if someone wants to fund a cat walking behind the 2 people going up the hill with its tail up, kinda marching behind, I agree with that design proposal, and I would okay that something be added. Over here in the area where the flower garden is, in my mind, my design, I believe that whole wall could be just rows of flowers. From a building maintenance perspective, all the little flowers have to go on metal runners, so that you have 2 or 3 holes in the wall, not 60 billion holes in the wall. So in my mind, I have a design that would allow for a lot of community participation in that section. But there is a reason to have some white space or negative space. So as an artist, I would like to control the design.
Does that answer that
Yeah.
question? So, my vision is that we would get, donations to the art fund that Tyler set up. And those donations would be spent for new art and maintenance of art. That's how that, fund is set up. So, buy a flower, it goes into to the fund, to the art fund, but it's earmarked for a specific thing on the building. So you have a responsibility when you receive that money to spend it on what it was put up. But let's say you get more than it actually costs to do all this, then it would be in our art fund for future art projects and maintenance.
Even though it's earmarked?
What it's earmarked for is a flower. Let's say it was a $75 donation for a flower, but it cost $10 to produce. Then the rest of that is donation to the art fund.
Sure. Okay.
So that's kind of how you have to structure it, because most of this mural doesn't have a particular funder, you know, like, maybe there's a community, maybe this tree is really precious to someone in the community and they would love to fund that particular tree. You know, that could happen. And I think using creative ways of tying community businesses and individuals to the mural is making it a community building project. Then over here, to the left side, there's a girl in a wheelchair reading a book, and it says, "Read books, plant seeds," underneath. Then the boxes, some of the boxes underneath there would be painted with a book title and an author. And then there's a pretty good amount of space underneath the ladder and above those boxes. And I would like to see a plaque about the piece of art, explaining the artist's vision, and if there are significant donors that are not represented in any way here, that would be where you could have a list of donors, so that it shows community support, you know, through the project. I just think, for me, since Brad came to me with this, wanting to put a mural back there, and I didn't think an actual mural was a good fit, I think this is a good way of bringing as many people into it as possible.
What is Brad's contribution? Is he going to help fund it in any way, or what's his responsibility?
Well, he's gonna paint the back of the building, although the part where it comes down and then it starts the ground, I'll paint that, or volunteers will paint from there over underneath where we put the figures, so it all gets put in the right place. But he's painting the building, and he's giving an easement for public art on his building. And whether he chooses to participate in the community buy-in in some other way is up to him. Any other questions for now?
Have you considered any further spots of color? Like there's several hats in it and only one hat is colored?
I kept that to a minimum on here because visually I like the selective color, but I think the two backpackers, that's an area that kind of calls out for selective color at this point. So if somebody wanted to have something there, or, well, see, here's the thing. When you powder coat it, you can get one color. So I did one file for the guy and the ladder, and a separate file for the hat that fits on top of that and has to be mounted to it. So in order to get a colored hat on those people, you have to take a whole separate piece of metal and mount it on there. So I've just done this much selective color, and I intentionally left the sunflowers black to carry the whole black theme across. But with other colors of flowers behind that, would be a very beautiful, colorful.
Be a contrast. Good
Contrast.
Mhm.
So, the color behind the wheelchair girl is painted on flat block. That's one of the flat block sections. It's not three-dimensional. And so it would just be like a bright spot of color behind her.
There's 5 men and no women. There's 2 girls.
Well, you do not know if the painter is male or female, technically. And technically, you don't know if the hoeing
gardener.
person, the gardener,
And
is
that
male or
front
female.
backpacker looks like a girl.
And the 2 people going up over the mountain, technically you don't know which they are either. So we have 2 little girls, a little boy. I'm thinking most people would read that as little boy, and the man at the end, which I call him in my thing the old man. But I intentionally left the other figures amorphous because I think it allows people to write their own story, to see themselves or see someone else in those figures. So if they are less detailed as to male, female, age, and so on, you see the way I describe this is us through all of the generations of our life, you know. The little kids and our working life, and the painters making the world a prettier place. And so I kind of personally relate to the whole thing. Great. So, anything you want to chime in on?
I do. Go ahead.
Or do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it in a public comment in the meeting?
Well, this is your workshop, right?
Yeah.
So you look at all kinds of ideas
Okay.
and decisions all get made.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think before you put together any kind of acceptance or denial or whatever you want to do with this, you have a whole number of things to decide, and I think you should write it out. First off, who's going to control it? You're the artist, so are you going to give authority to Brad or to the city, or going to keep it to yourself?
She's keeping it to herself.
Don't
Well,
make decisions
the-
now, you need to discuss it, but
Okay.
who's going to maintain it? Who's going to pay for somebody chipped off
That's
an
fine,
edge?
yeah, fine.
So you decide that one is inappropriate. Black Lives Matter happened, and we didn't know what Black Lives Matter was 2 years ago, and there may be some other thing up there that's no good. So how do you change it? How do you modify it? Maybe there's not enough women, maybe there's too many women, maybe there's not enough dogs, who knows? Maybe you want to change it. Who has control of that? I think you should talk about that sort of stuff. And then who owns it, and who is the person responsible for, if you decide to take it down, to modify it, to leave it as is? I think there's some discussion points before you decide to sponsor it or not sponsor it, to make it a sign project or make it a city project. So I think you should probably think about all the things that it's gonna take to put this up, and to decide how that is gonna be structured, and then either make a proposal from the Art Commission or as yourself, because this is a little bit different. Typically, we've done in the murals in the past, the city decided we wanna put a mural up, or whoever it was, and then the city paid for it, and so it was the city's when it was all done.
Right.
Pretty obvious. This case, you've got Brad and you were thinking about. Great sign, I love the idea, the concept's spectacular, and it has the whole city involved in it, which makes it kind of lean towards being a city.
Well, my concept
Structure.
was to donate my design to the city and have it be city-owned public art.
Does the city
If-
want it though?
Hmm?
Does the city want it?
That, well, we're gonna put together a
them.
proposal,
Okay,
and we're taking it to the forum as well. But if the rest of the commission, cause I'm recused from this, if the rest of the commission wants to take it up as a, here's something that we think
Mhm.
we should, pursue further, like finding out what the legal ramifications are and so on, then during our regular meeting, they would decide up and down, do we want to take this on as something we wanna pursue and look into? And then at the end of that decision-making process, it's up or down. Do we wanna send it to the council, or do we want to, table it? Thank you.
But it's just deciding
So
as a
this
commission whether we
today-
wanna support it.
Yeah.
I'm
whether
trying to
we
figure out
wanna-
in my head if this is really a city council or if this is a planning commission decision. It's a sign, if it's a sign, it's not a city council thing.
Sign variances go to the council. You just did one for, Mr. Picking's sign that was.
Correct, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Would this be a variance?
It's a mural, and the sign code states that murals
Okay.
are signs,
Okay,
and,
I'm not
yeah.
familiar.
And the city, our charter is to find projects and then give them to the city council to act upon or not.
Ooh, which is another point. Is this what you want to do in terms of what the whole city project should be? You're gonna do this forum coming up at the end of the month, where you're gonna garner ideas about that very thing. Will this fit into that? And I think it kinda does, but does it, you know, I don't know if this is a little early on for that decision process about what your art master plan might be, or
I don't think
does it
it's
fit
too
in?
early to set
I'm,
this.
I'm not making a decision, I'm just telling you,
Yeah,
this is what I'm
we-
thinking you
because
probably
We
ought to
said,
talk
that's
about.
what we said earlier, set it aside as its own separate thing, and people
Mhm.
can comment and state if they'd like to, you know, put money into it, or
Sure.
want it, however they wanna do it.
How they
So we
feel
have
about it
list
as a
of
piece of
people.
art, for
Right,
instance,
right.
to know whether it is the type of thing that people, see, first of all, for me personally, when I see someone's photographs or paintings, I get a gut reaction when I look at it, I like it or I don't.
Oh, yeah.
And then, from then on, does it make me think? Does it interest me further? Am I gonna look at it a little bit more?
Mhm.
So, I'd like to know from the public, if they saw this on the building, what's their feeling? How do they take it? Is it something that they think represents the city? Is it something that, would be positive?
Mhm.
Those are the kinds of things that I think it's important for us to know in the public forum. And this would be just one physical example of something we're thinking about if we do take it up.
All I'm suggesting is it sounds like the commission has a fair amount of thinking and decisions to make and
Mhm.
discussion before you say, yep, we're gonna pay for it or not gonna pay for it or
Oh, sure.
sponsor it
Yeah,
or
we're
whatever.
We're just deciding whether the commission is
Do
going
we
to
want to begin looking
assist
at
with
it?
Yeah,
that, or
and-
whether Becky's just on her own.
Right,
Yeah.
and because until we take it up as something that we want to pursue farther, we can't be taking the lawyer's time to
Mm-mm.
look into it. We can't, busy staff on finding out what the financial, ramifications
Right.
are, or go to any department really until it's something that we
Wanna follow up on.
wanna follow up on. So I think that it's time to call the meeting to order.
Well, we got 4 minutes.
So, so let's call the meeting to order. and have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call, everybody's here except Adam.
And he's excused.
And
Right.
there was no excuse, I
No
didn't,
excuse?
did not hear from him, so I was kind of expecting he'd be here for the regular part of the meeting. Changes to the agenda, are we gonna call that public comment again, or discussion?
You can call it again, I don't think there will be any, public comment, but the changes to the agenda can be a discussion about the public comment we heard previously, and if there's anything that wants to
Okay.
transpire from that.
So, as changes to the agenda, we are going to take up the matter of the silhouette mural.
If anyone wants to take that matter up, yes.
Yes, let's take that up.
Go ahead.
So we're gonna do a motion, correct? A motion that we would like to, consider putting forth this as an opportunity for a mural on the Pickering wall. Any
Did you-
seconds? I just
oh.
made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll second it.
And
Sandra seconded it. So, did you wanna call for a vote?
yes, let's vote. Who would like to consider working on this, putting it forward? So we have 4 yays.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have the consent agenda, which is the January 15th minutes. Did you get a chance to read them?
Yeah, there was, one correction under 1.3 was, we met with Counselor Exner, that was, Sandra was also there.
Oh, okay.
I think
As you
that's-
recall, I was not at that meeting, so.
That's okay, that's all right, and I think that's all I saw.
You can make a motion as amended and I'll get that
Okay,
updated.
Motion
If you'd
to
like.
add Jordan to 1.3,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
so, I wasn't listening, actually, I went to sleep.
Thank you.
Was that voting on the whole minutes or just a change?
A change.
The consent agenda for the.
Okay,
we said that-
so we accepted the
January 15th.
amendment, okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Oh, we did that,
We did that?
didn't we do that?
Yeah, that was all.
That was
all
all
set.
one
That
vote?
was
Okay,
all-
good,
Accepting
'cause
the
that's
minutes as amended.
tedious.
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I just sort of somehow fell asleep right in the middle of that.
I don't remember why we have the other 2 agendas to approve, or the minutes. I don't
They're
remember
just
why.
part of the meeting packet. There were the minutes for those minutes were attached to the January 15th meeting, so it's the whole just
Okay.
shebang. Yeah, but what
I
was
knew-
done is correct.
I knew they were gonna come back, but I couldn't remember why.
Yeah, they came back, they were amended from, at the January 15th meeting. They were adopted as amended. They're amended and part of the
Okay.
the
And he's just
meeting
giving us the
packet
hard
now.
copies now.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think that ends all of our business, if there's nothing else.
I just have one quick question, and it goes back to this again. If another group wants to do a mural on a building, is this how they would make a first presentation to us about, on how to do something like this?
I don't know that, no, No one would know to do that.
No, we don't have an outline.
And I don't know that any of the, like the sign people would even think to send them to us. Isn't that true, Mr.
I think we
Probably.
have
Counselor
a
Exner?
flow chart.
They are supposed to say what my name and number is, right? So it's Carl Exner at 40215 McCormick Court, Sandy. I think if you, we had a bunch come in from, I think the Kiwanis, came here, wanted to put a
Mhm.
sign up, remember?
Well, yeah, there was
The
the sign
entrance
up
of
there
the
by
city.
the gas station when you first come into town.
Correct,
Mhm.
and they originally brought it up to
Mhm.
the city council, and we said, thankfully, go to the planning, to the art commission and present it to them and give them an idea that if you're gonna go forward on it, how would you want them to describe it, change it, if they've ever went to a proposal, and they've never done that I'm aware of.
No.
So if it comes to the city council, the first precedent, the only precedent is that we send it to you guys. I would assume that the same thing might happen to the planning commission if somebody presented it, but my guess is it wouldn't go to them, it would go probably to the front desk of the city at the planning department, and they bring in a sign proposal of some kind. And at that point, they should be sending it to the planning commission and the art commission to be able to make sure that all those are covered. So I don't know if that process is set up at the front desk with Noreen and.
Not for a
company.
sign, no, for,
Well,
we don't
it-
have
you
any
know, it-
murals, conversations that occur
Since this
very
is all
often,
new for
so,
all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if somebody asks us at the forum,
Mhm.
what do we say?
Good point.
So I think ultimately, if someone has a mural idea,
Right.
that mural is a sign that would need a variance and would need to be approved by council. So if I just show up and I have this great idea for a mural, I wanna put it on whatever building, they can go directly to council. And then council could suggest they
go to
come and talk to the
building
arts commission for input, or
Right.
they can just make a decision to approve or deny it.
We would probably,
ultimately.
we'd probably never just say, somebody comes up from the public like me and say to council, I wanna put a mural up on my building and can you give me permission? I don't think that the council would ever say, sure, or no, but they probably would say, you need to go through the process. So there's a process to do all kinds of things, sign or mural, and we'd probably send them to the front desk of the planning commission, and from there, they would go through that process, paperwork as well as planning commission and art commission, sign committee, whatever else that has to be done, so.
So,
But maybe this
So
is new
theoretically,
enough.
that might never even come to the art commission? That seems.
well, there just
Only
hasn't
by
been a
m-
directive.
Yeah,
It
there's nothing
seems
written
like-
down.
Yeah.
A directive to the different departments. I don't know that there's a written directive to the departments to funnel anything like that here.
I would say if you're thinking that that is a concern, and to me, it seems kinda like a concern, or at least certainly a need, put together a proposal and send it up the ladder to council and say, we're thinking that we'd like to have these sorts of people involved in any kind of proposal that includes an art potential project, that it goes through this process. I suppose it would go through the planning commission, since it's a code thing. And
You're
then
talking
they
about
would
changing
modify-
the code, or the process
Policy.
itself?
Policy, I guess I'm thinking at this point.
I mean, as it stands now, a mural is a sign, and a sign variance is approved by council. It does
Right.
not go to planning commission. So right now, the arts commission would not be included if I walked into a council meeting and said, I like this idea. Your directive should be, as council, go fill out a sign variance.
Yeah, we
And
would
that's-
not do something just because they presented it to the council.
Well,
We
you'd be
would need to
sending
have
them
a
to the
formal present.
front desk.
You'd send them to the front desk to fill out a form that would come
Yeah.
back to your plate to then be approved. And it would not go to the arts commission.
So really, we're talking about a policy
Right, a
change
policy.
that
A
says.
code change that removes that removes a mural from being a sign that is dictated by the sign code process.
Well, it's not like there's a couple processes there, but certainly I would think that we'd want to instigate that either with a code change or whether it's a policy change from here. Make some sort of proposal and send it to the next proper authority, and then let us figure out if it's a policy or code, and who is gonna be the first to look at it, and then definitely council would be the one that finished the project up, cause it would be a code.
How
So-
how do building owners in town, I mean, cause I've never owned a building in town, how do they know that they have to get permission to paint their building or put art on it?
Well, everybody knows that painting is controlled by the city, is a Sandy style. We have a palette that we use to decide which colors are acceptable and which are not, so.
Right.
Even things like the franchise buildings like McDonald's, they have to come to us and say, even though it's a McDonald's red, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
They would come to us and say, well, we allow these kinds of reds, so they would tweak it a little bit. Or come to us for a variance, I suppose. But, yeah, painting is something the city decides. So murals is a sign or something like that, so it's something the city decides.
Okay,
But it is the owner's building, so he would be the first person, she would be the first person to decide, like Brad. But you probably need to throw something together so that we can make that right decision to make sure that the art commission is always involved in whatever projects are related to art, so. At this point, we kinda know, cause you've been to the different committees and commissions. And certainly I'm gonna be bringing it up if it comes to the council, but
But there's nothing official.
to make it
But-
official,
but as
don't know
people
that yet.
come and go in departments and as,
Should be policy.
yeah, there needs to be kind of a written policy so that people are aware as transitions are made.
think of the 1%, we thought that was codified. We can't find it anywhere, so we need to do something about that too.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's a few little things that, the Arts Commission at this point probably has the expertise to do, but there's no guarantee that there would even be an artist on the Arts Commission in the future
Sure.
necessarily. But little things like the arch to Mining Park, you know, it's real pretty, but it's dark wood with black lettering on it.
Yeah, fuzzy thinking.
Whoever designed that probably thought black is real classy, but there's no contrast
Can't see
between
it.
the
Yeah,
two.
you can't
I
see
think that was the
So you
Parks
can't see it.
Committee. Parks Committee
So-
that did that.
No artists on that committee.
There's no artists on that committee. So to me, now that you have an arts commission, I think having some things in the policies of the city would be a really good idea. Then you don't get black lettering on dark wood.
Or beige on beige signs at each end of town.
Yeah, beige on
Or
beige
just
signs.
some different
Oh.
outlets, yeah.
And some people like the color that the city hall is painted and other people don't. So we don't know without doing a poll how the Arts Commission feels about it, but it seems like that would help the departments to have more people thinking along those lines and even if this was a group of business people who didn't feel like they had the art ability, they have the ability to find people who do. So I think it should be a policy kind of a thing.
So how do we, step one, how do we make that a policy?
There's a bunch of things that I'm thinking of, the other side of the world too, just putting up a sign that's cheap or economical, or maybe they wanna spend a lot of money, that has nothing to do with what you guys would be able to be responsible for. So Brad, for instance, wanted to spend the old $15,000 to make that happen. You don't care if it's 15,000 or 2,000, but you don't have much responsibility there, but you would have responsibility about how the thing looked. So I think there's several different types of entities within the city that need to be able to review your proposal. But I would say you need to write up a proposal, come up with an idea, what's it gonna entail, try to think of all the possible pieces and parts of it, and then put it through the process of, certainly you'd want the planning commission to look at it, certainly you want,
If I understand your question, though, you're
Do
talking
this.
about from any project, not Becky's proposal specifically. How do you
No,
get?
for example, there's been other things that have been brought up by city council that they have said that they would like our involvement in, but we have no idea what's happening, and, or whether it's dead in the water, or, and so some examples would be the 2 signs on the end of town and the fountain. And another example would be the shades for the Centennial Plaza, the kite shades or whatever they're called. I started doing some research on that, and it's kind of overwhelming because there's quality differences all over the place, there's size differences, and it's not my job. I mean, that's not a project of the Art Commission. So I didn't wanna spend hours on finding everything available, but somebody suggested that we might wanna be involved because we might wanna have some input on how it looks. What colors are we gonna use? What shapes are we gonna use? How are they gonna line up? So there's another project that's not really our project, but we could have some input on, but there's no
Yeah.
policy.
Color and design,
And
things
we
like that.
don't know, where is that project? Is anybody even thinking about it anymore, or what?
And you might have some pushback on that, because some people might say, well, what does it make a difference if the commission our commission likes it or doesn't like it? It's still a valid proposal, it
Right.
meets all the code. So that's why I said in order for you to be an active participant, you need to be involved in the process, and the process doesn't really include you yet.
Well, and
But
it
you're that
doesn't
new.
have to mean we get to make the decision. If
You
they
may
want
not
our
be
input,
allowed
then
to
they
make
can
the
ask for our
decision.
input and they can take it or leave it. When it's not our project, we're not gonna go hang shades and dig holes for posts in the cement and stuff.
And I don't think your bylaws say that you have to approve every project that comes through anyway. I don't think that's part of your bylaws, but it makes some sense that if there's a project, take the sail
Mhm.
shades. That certainly would be something that I would hope that the Art Commission got involved in, but it's not your project.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You don't even know it's gonna be happening at the plaza or
We're here to serve
Ormsted,
with
there's all kinds
input
of
too,
places.
not just complete projects ourselves, right?
So it would need to be thought through about what you think you are looking to do to impact the other projects that are in the city. And then allow the process to work so that the planning commission can look at it, review it, the city council would be able to look at it, review it. Maybe legal, there's a fair amount of other things that
Like
could
we
be
would be
involved.
one of the check boxes.
We would be an advisory committee.
You would start out the
Yeah.
process. Think about what it would be that you would be most helpful for. You don't wanna be the original proponent for everything that comes up in the city.
No.
No.
You just don't
But
wanna
we
do
wanna
that.
be available.
Yeah, right. And maybe you're a check of the box.
Yeah.
Yep. So like when the
That's kinda
proposal
like
comes to
what-
the city,
I think that's kind of what we're thinking.
they have a pre-op checkpoint, so the fire checks, the
Right.
city public works checks it, and then
Mhm.
police and so on, you might be the next check box there. But you would need to come up with a proposal. Nobody else is gonna do that for you.
Right.
You need to figure out a way to put this on somebody's plate. So, on a workshop, probably build up a proposal.
Huh?
When you do next couple of workshops, put a proposal together and
Yeah.
make
Put that on the
Tyler put it
agenda
on the
and
right spot.
figure out how we're gonna write this up.
That'll take a lot more time than one workshop.
Well, at least we can get down the basics that have to be in
Of
it,
course,
and
Debbie's-
then somebody can write it up.
Vicky's so fast, she'll have it half done.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for your input. Thank
Thanks.
you, Counselor Exner.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
I am, thinking